Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1985. Today, we're going to talk about Back to the Future. The story of Back to the Future takes us to Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. Robert Zemeckis is an American filmmaker. At the time, he was most famous for directing the 1984 film Romancing the Stone. Bob Gale was Robert Zemeckis' friend and had worked alongside him for several projects. Zemeckis and Gale conceived of a film featuring time travel back in 1980. However, they struggled to find a good story for it. The two struggled in Hollywood, creating several failures in the industry. Gale came across his father's high school yearbook and began thinking whether he would have been friends with his father if they went to school together. This became the basis for Back to the Future. In September 1980, Gale and Zemeckis went to Columbia Pictures to pitch the film. Columbia Pictures agreed to move forward with the project. They would then complete the first draft of the film and present that to Columbia Pictures on February 21st, 1981. After quite a few changes, they presented the second draft of the film on April 7th, 1981. Columbia Pictures refused to greenlight the film, though, feeling it did not have mass appeal. This was primarily because the biggest comedies at the time, such as Animal House and Porky's, featured highly sexual plots and jokes. Back to the Future was seen as too tame by comparison. The script would be rejected by other studios as well. It is said the script was rejected 40 times in total. Robert Zemeckis began working on other projects, including 1984's Romancing the Stone. Because this became a surprise success, Zemeckis felt he had enough credibility to make Back to the Future. He held a grudge against the studios that rejected him, however, so he turned instead to Amblin Entertainment, Steven Spielberg's new production company. Amblin agreed to work on the film, but Columbia Pictures retained the rights to it. Due to a trade of rights between Universal Studios, Amblin's parent company, and Columbia Pictures, which saw Columbia give up the rights to Back to the Future in exchange for the rights to Double Indemnity, Amblin Entertainment was able to move forward with the film. The third and working draft of the film would be completed by July 1984. Michael J. Fox was the first choice to portray the lead character, Marty McFly. However, due to Fox's commitment to the sitcom Family Ties, he did not initially receive the script through the sitcom's production, and other actors had to be considered. Those other actors included John Cusack, Johnny Depp, Ralph Macchio, Charlie Sheen, John Cryer, Ben Stiller, and Robert Downey Jr. However, Universal's executive chose Eric Stoltz for the film, promising that if it did not work, the film could be reshot. For the character of Doc Brown, several actors were considered, including Jeff Goldblum, John Lithgow, Dudley Moore, Robin Williams, John Cleese, Mandy Patinkin, Gene Hackman, and James Woods. The role ultimately would go to Christopher Lloyd, who was in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Filming began on November 26, 1984, with an estimated $14 million budget, over $41 million in 2023. After around a month, the footage was reviewed and everyone agreed that Eric Stoltz was not the right fit for the character of Marty McFly. At the beginning of 1985, the crew reached out directly to Michael J. Fox to try to convince him to join the film. Fox agreed without even reading the script. A week later, Eric Stoltz was let go, although his full salary was paid. Filming fell behind schedule, but it was able to resume with Michael J. Fox as the star on January 15, 1985. Filming was difficult due to Fox's schedule, but filming was concluded on April 26, 1985, around 2 months behind schedule. Alan Silvestri, who had worked on Romancing the Stone, was brought in to compose the score for the film. Industrial Lights and Magic developed the special effects for the film. Post-production of the film was finished on June 23, 1985, with a final budget of $19 million, over $55 million in 2023. Universal Pictures released Back to the Future to theaters worldwide on July 3, 1985. The film was successful quickly. It would be the most successful film for several weeks and became the highest-grossing film of 1985. In total, it is said to have made over $380 million at the box office throughout all its releases. Even the soundtrack would do well, with the lead single, The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News, reaching #1 on the Billboard charts. The film was also reviewed well by critics. In particular, the plot, charm, and humor of the film were praised. The acting was seen as good, particularly the performances of Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. The film was released with a novelization, written by George Gipe. It would go on to have several different lines of merchandise made for it, although this was not done originally. Back to the Future saw a video game adaptation released for it alongside the film for the Commodore 64 and British computers. This game, simply named Back to the Future, was developed by Software Images and published by Electric Dreams Software. In the game, the player plays as George McFly, who must spend as much time with Lorraine as possible in order to fall in love. This game was not reviewed well. As time has gone on, Back to the Future has retained its positive reputation. It is often seen as one of the greatest films ever made. The characters in the film will also occasionally make lists of best movie characters of all time. Back to the Future would spawn a franchise, creating sequels, a television show, a musical, tons of merchandise, and video games, among many others. It would become an iconic film of the 1980s, celebrated for years. That is a brief backstory to Back to the Future. With that now told, it's time to talk about the plot of the film. If you have not seen it and do not want its plot spoiled, now would be the time to stop. For those that have stayed, let's talk about the plot of Back to the Future. The film starts in 1985, where we meet Marty McFly and his family in the city of Hill Valley. Marty McFly meets his scientist friend, Doc Brown, in a mall parking lot. Doc shows Marty that he has a time machine built from a modified DeLorean, which is powered by plutonium he got from Libyan terrorists. The terrorists arrive and shoot down Doc. Marty flees in the DeLorean, traveling back to November 5th, 1955. Marty is stuck in the past with no plutonium to take him back to 1985. He goes into Hill Valley and finds his teenage father, named George, who is being bullied by the same bully he knows from 1985, named Biff. His father falls into the road and is almost hit by a car. Marty is able to save his father, but gets knocked unconscious himself. When he wakes up, he finds that his teenage mother, named Lorraine, has been nursing him, and she has fallen in love with him. Marty leaves and goes to see a younger Doc Brown. He is able to explain the situation to this Doc and asks for help. Thanks to Marty's knowledge of the future, the two come up with a plan to use a lightning strike to let Marty travel back to 1985. Marty looks at a photo he is carrying and sees his older siblings fading away. Doc warns Marty that his actions are changing the future and could destroy his own existence. Marty's father was supposed to be hit by the car, and his mother was supposed to nurse his father, and that's how the two fall in love. Marty then decides he must get his parents together, but all his early attempts fail. Lorraine asks Marty to the school dance, and Marty comes up with a plan. The plan is to make inappropriate advances on his own mother, allowing his father to come in and save her. However, Biff intervenes, locks Marty in the trunk of the car, and forces himself on Lorraine. George is able to defeat Biff and take Lorraine to the dance. The band for the dance saves Marty, but the lead guitarist hurts his hand in the process. Marty takes his place, performing on stage when his parents share their first kiss. He then goes to the courthouse to meet Doc and hopefully gets struck by lightning. Marty had given Doc a letter with a warning about the future, but Doc ripped it up. To try and save Doc in 1985, Marty recalibrates the DeLorean to return 10 minutes before he left. The lightning hits and Marty makes it back to 1985, but the DeLorean breaks down and Marty must run back to the mall. He gets back just in time to see Doc get shot again. As he grieves over Doc, Doc gets back up, revealing that he put Marty's note back together, got the warning, and brought a bulletproof vest because of it. Doc takes Marty back home, then leaves for 2015 in the DeLorean. Back home, Marty finds his home life much better than he left it and reunites with his girlfriend. Doc then arrives, stating that they must go with him to the future to save their children. That is the plot of Back to the Future. As we mentioned, Back to the Future would spawn a franchise. We will keep an eye on this franchise as we continue. As for the people behind the film, they would all continue to work in the film industry, so we will hear from them again. As for the stars of the film, they would both continue to act in successful films. We will hear from Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd again. That will do it for the story of Back to the Future for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we try to keep our clothes on.